Which brings us to a really fascinating question. How exactly did our greatest fears become our best friends? Just think about that for a second. I mean, for tens of thousands of years, the relationship between our ancestors, gripping their spears in the dark, and wild wolves was defined by one primary emotion, and that was sheer terror. We were mortal enemies. We were competing for the exact same resources in a totally unforgiving environment. Wolves were a very real, very deadly threat. So how on earth do we get from being hunted in the freezing night to letting their descendants sleep comfortably at the foot of our beds? It's honestly one of the most extraordinary partnerships in the natural world.
To understand how this happened, we have to trace this massive evolutionary timeline. And hey, this wasn't an overnight change. We're starting all the way back, tens of thousands of years ago, right in the middle of that harsh Ice Age survival, where making a fire or crafting a simple tool literally meant life or death. Then, we jump forward countless generations to a huge turning point, the era of permanent human settlements. And finally, we arrive at the modern day, where these former predators are quite literally living inside our homes. Figuring out this whole journey, well, it all starts with a simple, quiet shift in behavior.
The secret to this massive shift really lies in a quiet coexistence. Back during that harsh Ice Age, something totally unprecedented happened. Instead of actively hunting massive, dangerous prey, or, hunting us, a few clever wolves just started changing their strategy. Drawn in by the warmth of human campfires and that irresistible scent of cooked meat, they started lingering near human camps. They essentially chose to scavenge for leftovers, maybe waiting for a tossed bone, rather than risking their lives hunting out in the cold. It was a completely practical, energy-saving decision on their part. Work smarter, not harder, right? And for a long time, we just sort of existed near each other in this cautious truce, right at the edge of the firelight.
But that cautious truce eventually sparked an active, working partnership, and it happened in 3 main steps. Step 1, scavenging leftovers. The least aggressive wolves realized that just waiting calmly alongside humans offered a way better chance of survival. If they didn't bare their teeth, well, we let them eat our scraps. Step 2, warning of approaching predators. Humans started benefiting immensely because these wolves had incredibly sharp senses. They became our early warning system, barking to alert the camp if trouble was coming. And finally, Step 3, assisting during human hunts. That mutual trust evolved into actual cooperation. Wolves started running alongside our ancestors, helping take down prey. It was a brilliant mutual survival strategy. We provided the food, and they provided the security and hunting support.
Now, this quiet coexistence didn't just change their daily habits. Over countless generations, it fundamentally changed their biology. You gotta remember, the wolves that survived and reproduced in this new human-adjacent environment were the least aggressive ones. By selectively rewarding the friendliest, most helpful wolves with food and warmth, and obviously chasing away the aggressive ones, we were unintentionally driving a massive evolutionary shift. I mean, we were literally shaping a completely new species just by sharing our fires.
The contrast between the wild wolf ancestor and the evolving early dog is just stark. On one hand, you have the wild wolf, built for brutal survival, heavily armed with all the aggressive traits necessary for taking down large prey in the Ice Age, and usually met with spears and fear by our ancestors. But on the other hand, you start to see the early dog emerging. And these emerging characteristics were softer, much more suited for living in a domestic setting rather than the harsh wilderness. Our ancestors could actually approach them without fear. The physical traits associated with domestication were really taking hold, permanently separating the early dog from its wild wolf cousins.
And the specific physical changes brought on by this domestication were absolutely profound. First off, they developed gentler temperaments, which is, absolutely crucial if you're going to live safely near human families. Then we start seeing smaller bodies, floppier ears, and a wide variety of coat colors replacing that standard camouflage look of the wild wolf. But here is the craziest part, their increased ability to digest starch. As dogs spent more time with us, their internal biology adapted so they could safely eat the starch-rich foods that were becoming super common in human settlements. They were literally evolving from the inside out to share our diet. Talk about a real game changer.
That dietary shift perfectly matches our next major milestone, which is settling down together. For the longest time, our human ancestors were nomadic hunter-gatherers, right? Moving constantly, spears in hand. But eventually, we transitioned. We stopped wandering. We started building permanent communities, planting crops, and developing early agriculture. And because of all those profound physical and behavioral changes that had already taken place, dogs didn't just stay behind in the wild. No way. They adapted right alongside us. They moved right into these new settlements, settling down and sleeping comfortably beside our new homes.
Basically, human advancement and the dog's expanding societal role advanced in perfect parallel. When humans transitioned to living in permanent communities, dogs stepped up as our trusted protectors. When our hunting techniques became more advanced, well, dogs were right there as our dedicated hunting partners. And when we finally developed early agriculture and started keeping livestock, dogs learned a whole new skill. They became herders. The rules expanded in lockstep with our own societal leaps. They were solidifying themselves as completely essential working companions in our daily lives.
But hey, the story doesn't end with them just being good coworkers. Fast forward to modern scientific research, and we discover something absolutely fascinating about the chemistry of this friendship. We know they helped us survive historically, sure, but why does this ancient bond feel so deeply emotional to us today? Why do we treat them like family? Well, modern science tells us that this bond, this invisible thread of shared affection, extends way beyond just historical cooperation. It is actually hardwired into our biology.
It all comes down to oxytocin. So, oxytocin is a powerful hormone released during eye contact between humans and dogs, and it's responsible for strengthening emotional connections. But here is the truly mind-blowing part. It is the exact same hormone pathway responsible for the emotional connection between parents and their children. Yes, you heard that right. What began as a simple kind of cold survival strategy at the edge of an ice age fire transformed into one of evolution's greatest success stories. This relationship isn't built on dominance at all. It is built on mutual trust, companionship, and a literal, measurable chemical bond. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider this quote. One of humanity's closest friends was once among its most feared predators. It is just an incredible legacy. Today, every single loyal dog, whether it's a tiny little companion sleeping on your couch or a hardworking dog on a farm, carries within it the distant legacy of its wild ancestors. Petting our dogs today, while looking back at that long, terrifying journey of our ancestors, serves as a living, breathing reminder of our shared history. I mean, what other predator in the history of the world looked at us and decided to join us instead? It really makes you look at the dog sitting next to you in a whole new light, doesn't it?